Dave and Lucy have been in business for a long time. They have a great business and a great team. After years of hard work, they wanted to increase their property portfolio with their dream home. But being self-employed, they found their bank's lending criteria very restrictive. They saw Toowoomba's Edge Lending, the business lending experts. Edge Lending thinks outside the box and were able to secure a facility for Dave and Lucy to purchase the property. Edge Lending, making business lending easier.
Hi everyone, Scott from Edge Specialist Advice Network. I hope you're all well. Hey, today we've got another installment of What the Numbers Say, and we're going to look at the GDP breakup by countries in Europe, in the EU effectively. So let's have a bit of a look at this. And I mean, it's pretty stark. And the reason I wanted to look at this, and this is obviously again from Visual Capitalist, we love the graphs and the work those guys do, is look at the top three countries and how large it is compared to the rest of the EU. France, Germany, and Italy are more than half of Europe's GDP, and more than half of all those other little countries, right? Sweden here, Netherlands, Spain. Just look at this, the stark contrast. Now, the couple of things we can take away from this. One is that those three countries, France, Germany, and Italy, are really carrying all of those other little countries. And it also shows you that those other little countries are stuck being under one currency because there's such a small economic piece of the puzzle in the EU that for them to ever really change the way that they're going to attract capital, they can never really devalue their own currency anymore to attract new tourism and a whole lot of other, even industry, investment capital, because they're stuck with the EU currency and the euro, and that's being held up by these other big players as well. So you've got Germany, Italy, and France. I want to actually kind of focus on Germany a little bit though. So these are the GDP figures from 2024. Germany is actually in a lot of trouble. Their energy policy has really crippled them. There's been a lot of big industries have moved out of Germany, and because they closed down their coal-fired power stations, they closed down their nuclear power stations, and then all of a sudden they got no energy, and so they had to kind of reopen coal power stations. Then they used to get gas from Russia, very, very cheap. It was piped in. The Nord Stream pipeline mysteriously blew up back when Biden was president, and that was pretty much, we pretty much know that it's the West that blew it up, but it crucified them in an energy sense, and then manufacturing has really taken a big hit. So you can see that, and I guess the point there is because Germany is such a big part of the total GDP for the EU, European Union here, when it's hurt economically, the whole EU gets really, really hurt. So you can see that the writing is on the wall that the EU is going to have a lot of problems, and with the US pulling out of Europe, leaving them to their own devices, Germany and the EU probably have two options. They probably make up with Russia. They have to make up with Russia, start buying cheap energy again, start trying to get all their manufacturing back, and start being a manufacturing powerhouse again. They'll take more than a decade, or pretty much the European Union project, this collective socialism, falls apart. They break apart. They let everyone go back to their own currencies, and they start trying to look after themselves. It's really the two options that's going to be presented to them. And I guess, is there an investment case for that? There may well be, even though the economies of these countries may well go through a lot of issues. The EU potentially will get dumped, all right. And so what that will mean is hopefully our currencies are a bit stronger, and we might be able to pick up still good global companies that are domiciled in the EU and on the DAX and in the EU stock exchange, that we might be able to pick up that has been a bit of not mispricing, but just due to a currency arbitrage, we might be able to pick up some cheaper companies that will eventually bounce back when this whole mess in Europe rights itself up. Now, I'm not saying to go race out and go and buy, a lot of companies in the EU. Now, the big ones, we already know what the big ones are, and they are already global companies. But there will be some opportunities when there will be some mispricings coming up. Watch for, I'm not going to say a collapse in the currency of the EU, but that'll be the trigger. When you see that happening, or you see, or you hear information about, well, the EU is politically it's breaking apart, Germany wants to pull away, or the little countries want to pull away, you know that there'll be pressure on the EU. When you hear about that the US is pulling out, or that the US is making up with Russia, and that and maybe the EU will have to make up with Russia too, that'll be the time that we should start looking at some of the big names, it's like Siemens and all those sort of guys that do some really big global engineering stuff. We might be able to pick up some placements well and truly cheaper than they probably should be. So look, this wasn't really a big hey, this week we need to get our heads into the game, into some EU stocks, but there is going to be opportunities later on, and I wanted to show you why Germany by itself matters so much in the EU sphere, and why Germany for so many hundreds of years, everyone has always been fearful of Germany and Russia teaming up because they'd be such a strong base. So there's always been lots of political will to try and keep those guys apart. Anyway, all right, guys, that's what the numbers say. Just having a look at those, you can see 3 countries really are carrying the EU, and we'll see what happens in the near future with the new paradigm. All right, remember, life is a family sport. Give yours an edge. See ya.
Phil owned an established business, and it was really starting to grow. But he was using credit cards as an overdraft, had overdue accounts from suppliers, as well as a tax debt with the ATO. He needed to consolidate this debt and free up working capital. He saw Toowoomba's Edge Lending, who helped him replace these high-interest debts with one simple facility with lower repayments. Edge Lending Solutions, helping established businesses to grow.